All right, you guys, you're in the home stretch, last page. Question number 2 says, suppose the measure of angle 2 is equal to 60 degrees. Use what you know about vertical, supplementary, and corresponding angle relationships to find the measures of all the other angles. So notice on the picture, they have these little arrows here and here. And so you know the lines are parallel. And so because you know the lines are parallel, you know it's game on with all of those pairs of angles matching up. They tell you that the measure of angle 2 is 60 degrees. I like to write that on the picture so that I can see where the 60 degrees goes, but that's optional. I'm also going to write down the word parallel, just so that you remember later why you highlighted those things. All right, if angle 2 is 60 degrees, I can go around in a circle. I can do a cross across. There's lots of things I can do to figure out that there's 3 other angles on the picture that are also 60 degrees. 60 is top right, but it's right across from 30. So this one, angle 2 and angle 3, are opposite from each other. They're across from each other. They're vertical angles. So if angle 2 is 60 degrees, then I know that the measure of angle 3 is also 60 degrees. If they wanted a reason for that, you could say vertical angles is the reason. I'm going to write that right here. Keep in mind that if you answer these questions in a different order, there's also more than one reason that you can give. So if I had done a different thing first, then I might have given a different reason for 60, but this is just the reason we gave for our paper. So remember, this is like a suggestion. It's not the only answer, but 60 is the only answer. So I know angle 3 is also 60 degrees. And then if I know that angle 3 is 60 degrees and I know that angle 2 is 60 degrees, because these lines are parallel, I can hop down to these 4 down here as well. Angle 2 is top right. Angle 6 is top right. So angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles. And so I know that angle 6, I'm just going to write CA for that one, so you know that abbreviation. I know that angle 6 is also 60 degrees. And then, in addition, I also know that angle 7 is also 60 degrees. But there's also a number of reasons that I can give for that one. Angle 2 is top right. Angle 7 is bottom left. So these 2 angles here are alternate exterior angles, and so they're congruent. The directions to the question actually said that I was only supposed to use vertical, supplementary, and corresponding. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say, because I know angle 6 is 60 degrees, I'm going to say that angle 7 is 60 degrees because those 2 angles are vertical angles. But I could have also written AEA here if the directions to the question had said that I could use that as well. So guys, I know this one's 60, I know this one's 60, I know this one's 60, I know this one's 60. And so there's a couple of different ways that I can figure out how big the other ones are. I think most people will use linear pair. So if angle 2 and angle 1 make a straight line, you know that they have to equal 180 degrees. And so if angle 2 is already 60, then you know that there's 120 left over for angle 1. So 120 degrees for angle 1, and that's because those are supplementary angles because they form a linear pair. And then I know that angle 1 and angle 4 are the same because those are vertical angles. So I know that angle 4 is also 120 degrees. You could also use supplementary as a reason for that one. I just didn't. And then jumping down here, I know that angle 5 is 120 degrees because angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. And then for angle 8 right here, I can use corresponding, I can use linear pair. There's lots of different, you can use vertical angles with angle 5. Let's do that. So just remember that if they want you to give a reason, there's lots of different reasons you can give. If you know that the 2 lines are parallel, then you're only working with 2 numbers the whole way around the picture. So it's either going to be the one number or the other number, and those 2 numbers will always be supplementary with each other. So that's something else to keep in mind. On question number 3, it wants us to find the values of x and y, but it asks us to justify our answer. So when it says justify your answers, that means that they want you to write down a reason next to each answer. So when I say in the first one that I know x is equal to 80, I need to say why that's true. When I know in the first one that I say y is also equal to 80, I need to write down a reason why I know that's true. You might want to start by noticing that they tell you that all of these lines are parallel to each other. And so that means that all of the rules hold with which angles are equal to which angles. So in this first picture right here, I know that x is 80 degrees, or x is equal to 80, and I know that y is equal to 80. There's no math you have to do to solve to find those as answers to the question, but you do have to make sure that you give a reason why. I know x is 80 because it's across from the 80-degree angle. Those are vertical angles, and so I know that they're congruent. And just writing vertical angles is enough of a reason. I also know that y is 80 degrees, or y is equal to 80, and there's two ways that I can write down that reason. I could say that angle y and angle 80 are both on the right, so I could say that they're corresponding. Or I could say that x and y, the ones that are across from each other here and here, these ones form the letter z, and so those are alternate interior angles, and so I could give that as my reason too. So there's two things that you could write down for angle y when you write your answer to this question. If you write down that y equals 80, let's see. If you're writing down it's because they're alternate interior angles because they make that letter z, then you're going to write down that it's called the alternate interior angles. I'm going to write that underneath. Theorem. But if it was, and you can call that the AIA is your reason too. If it was because you said this was on the right and this was on the right, then you would call it the corresponding angles postulate, but you can write CA for that as well. So you're allowed to use the abbreviations that we practiced on the front. Okay, these next two problems here and here, when you go through and solve them, you're doing the same thing. So you're trying to figure out what's the number for the angle, and then you're also trying to give a reason why. So let's see. On the next one, I can say x is equal to, now on this one, I can't actually figure out x until after I figure out y, or I need to figure out an extra angle up here. So I wrote x equals first, and I'll write y equals underneath it, but I'm going to find this one out actually before I figure out this one. So on this one, I'm going to say y equals 120, and then I'm going to say x equals 60, but then I'm going to have to give reasons why for both of them. Y equals 120 is because 120 is on the outside and y is on the outside. They're on opposite sides of the transversal and they're outside the two lines. So this is the alternate exterior angles theorem, or the AEA, which says that if the lines are parallel, then your alternate exterior angles are congruent. And then once you know this one's 120, you know that x is 60 because you know that y and x have to make a straight line. And so my reason for that one that you can give is you can just write down that they're a linear pair. Okay. And then for this last one over here, I'm going to conclude, and you feel free to work ahead if you guys want to. I know x equals something, but I don't know what it is yet. And then I know that y equals 130. And as soon as I know y is 130, then I know x is 50. I'm not going to write the degrees on these, though. When the degree is on the letter here, you don't rewrite the degree down here. So the reason why y is 30 is because it's a vertical angle with the letter y. So I know that y is equal to 130 because they're vertical angles. And then for x equals 50, the reason why I know x equals 50 is because x and y are on the same side. They're inside the parallel lines and they're on the same side of the transversal. So they're same side interior angles. And when they're same side interior angles, you know that they're supplementary. That's the word we wrote in capital letters, big letters on the other side. So this is because of the same side interior angles theorem, which is SSIA. And so you can abbreviate it with the letters too.